what was the topic of the stream, that what are those 5 tactics which Ahmadi Qadiani clerics they use to deceive their people. And if you want me to ask what is the objective of those 5 tactics, there's one objective: to give this impression as though as they have responded to the objections without giving us any answer. So on the one hand, no answer is given. On the other hand, they want to achieve this goal as though as if they have answered. What are those 5 tactics? Number one, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani called it methodology of prophethood, Minhajul Nabuwa. And what is that? In Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's time, whatever objection was raised against Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, he would not address that objection. On the contrary, he would try to raise the same objection on other prophets. We gave you the case study of Hudaybiyah, that when Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's prophecy regarding Abdullah Atham, it failed, he did not die, people started to leave Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, there was great unrest in the Jamaat. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani used this tactic. He said, "Hello, it's not new." He said in Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made the prophecy of Hudaybiyah that they are going to make the Umrah. When it did not happen, many truthful people left Islam. And Mirza said it is mentioned by Ibn Kasir. Now, this was a blatant lie. In his entire life, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was not able to justify that. So now Jamaat is using the same tactic. But instead of giving the example of prophets, they give the example of other scholars and Sufis and whatnot. In which sense, whatever, for example, when we say Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is teaching a concept of 2 advents or a concept of Buruzi Muhammad, where's the evidence? Instead of giving us the evidence from Quran and Sunnah, they would say, oh, this Sufi said the same thing. This scholar said the same thing. So Mirza used to point out to the prophets. Today, Murabbis are pointing out to the scholars and Sufis, but they are not addressing the objection. This is how they give the impression, but not giving the answer. Second tactic is that these Qadiani clerics, these Murabbis, they will never ever tell their full belief on any matter. Today, we gave you the case study of belief on Khatmun Nabuwa, on finality of prophethood. They would never tell people that their actual belief is that the prophethood ended. And Mirza Ghulam Qadiani claimed that there was one prophet, one Ummati Bruzi Zilli prophet that was to come, and this was Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. They do not have the belief that prophethood is continued. They do not have this belief that Khatam an-Nabiyyin does not mean last prophet. It does not mean to seal the prophethood. All of they do not have this belief that if you obey Allah and His Messenger, you will receive the prophethood. All of that is public narrative and deception. So this was example that they would hide their actual belief and they would create a false public narrative. Why? Because they know if they will tell their belief, they can't defend that. Then third tactic is that when you ask them those questions, when you address those areas in which they have no defense whatsoever, they would deliberately, as a strategy, they would completely ignore that topic. They would not even address that. And the example was very simple. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said in 1892 that I will complete 40 years of dawah, my mission, and he said 10 years have completed. When in 1892? Now you can all do the math. If he was to complete 40 years and 1892, only 10 years have completed, what does that mean? There are still 30 more years. But we know for sure Mirza only survived after that for 16 years. So he was short of 14 years. How to address that? So this was just one example of those things in which they have no defense. So what would they do? They would completely, smartly, deliberately ignore these topics. Okay. Now, another point we discussed was that they will use, we call it the mullah card. What is the mullah card? Because they have grown, their children are grown with this animosity against other Muslims, that they are anti-Jamaat, mukhalifin, etc., etc. So their murabbis, they would tap into this hatred and they would repeatedly use, oh, all the prophets have been opposed, it is not something new for us, etc. In doing so, they are actually capitalizing on that hatred in the hearts of common Ahmadis instead of addressing the actual objection. And the fifth we discussed was that when you quote them something, instead of addressing that quotation and to give you the answer on that particular point, they will bring some other quotes. They will quote something from other books of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani which says the opposite. I.e., you point out to them, the example we studied today is, for example, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani crossed all limits to disrespect Sayyida Maryam Salamun alayha. When we bring those quotations, instead of addressing them, what do? Oh no, look at this place. He said Maryam is Siddiqa. Hang on a second. Our point is this one, where Mirza is saying that the nikah of Maryam Salamun alayha, Ma'azallah, it was against the law of Torah. It was a cover-up mission, and so on and so forth. How to justify that? They would not address that. They would give you other quotes. So these were 5 examples of how they're playing with their people, because through these tactics, yes, they may manage to control the cult members for a short amount of time, but they cannot deceive everybody else. As they say that you cannot deceive all people for all time. So this was a summary of what we discussed. Whenever you deal with the Murabbis, you'll be able to see that how they are using all of these tactics. Okay, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve people from their tactics.